Nō mai, haere mai, piki mai, kaki mai, kia ora whānau, and thank you very much for what a great turnout. I'm Maria Robertson, I'm the Deputy Chief Executive for Service Delivery and Operations at the Department of Internal Affairs. There's quite a few familiar faces in the crowd, which is great. Not only am I that in my kind of line role, I'm also obviously the SRO for this major program that we are warmly referring to as Te Ara Manaaki, essentially being about life and relationships. I just wanted to start actually by talking to you a little bit about my own personal kind of reflections of having been in this role for 4.5 years now, which is in fact a great privilege. When I first joined the department, I had assumed that I was going into a role that was essentially a very large production-oriented operational delivery role. And in the first 3 months, I had made a decision that I would go and I would learn the roles and the work of all of our people. We have around about 1,000 people who are delivering services to every New Zealander or anyone who wants to become a New Zealander throughout the entire course of their lives, from their birth to their death. This was kind of, to me, a startling kind of discovery that when our people were serving the citizens of New Zealand or people who had made the choice to become a citizen, what they were in fact doing was reflecting back to those people an aspiration that they had for themselves or their whānau. And what I mean by that is people, you, don't come to Department of Internal Affairs because you want a birth certificate or because you want a passport or because you want a marriage licence or because you want a citizenship certificate. What you come to us for is a means to an end. You have an aspiration to travel, to share memories, to create history with your children, your family, to visit loved ones, to get somewhere because someone's ill. You have a need to actually travel or to be able to securely identify yourselves. You want to actually create a partnership with a person. You actually want a formal record of your family and your heritage and your lines of connection. You actually want to create a new life or an aspiration for your family by not just calling New Zealand your home, but actually calling New Zealand your country. Now, all of that is actually a much deeper need than the thing. And it was a real reminder to me about the privilege of public service, having spent the majority of my career in large multinationals, delivering resources through Carter Holt Harvey, Comalco, Rio Tinto, Telecom, etc. Having done all of that and delivered, wealth to shareholders, what was now really startling to me and what really captured my heart, really, as well as my head, was the notion of public service being about representing all that's good about New Zealand to people in a way that they could access stuff that was really important to them personally. It reflected on people some personal aspirational need that they had that we could help to facilitate. And that was our job. That is our job. So this has become a sort of a personal aspiration of mine, that the cornerstone that we provide to every New Zealander, and as I said, everyone who wants to become a New Zealander, the cornerstone that we provide for every person from their birth through to their death. And you think about that as a relationship that we have with every New Zealander and everyone wanting to become a New Zealander. Essentially, from that point of their birth to their death, we have a relationship that actually supports people in their whole kind of life aspirations that they have not only for themselves, but also for their whānau. So this is a personal thing. This is a kind of a critical thing that we actually provide. And the key thing here for me is the manner in which we make that possible, the manner in which we relate to all of those people through the course of their lives. So as I look at you, I'm encouraging you to think about this at a deeper level, than simply a transaction, than simply the production of a document. It's got nothing to do with it. The document is simply a manifestation of the aspiration, or it presents a kind of a record or a formal kind of vehicle that someone might use. The release of the RFPs into the market is a milestone. It is kind of a red letter moment for us, because what it says is that we have got our heads around what it might look like if you truly put the customer, the citizen, the person, you, me, our families, if we put those people at the heart of everything that we do, what does that look like when it comes to delivering services to people? Some of my team were just giving me quite a lot of grief down the back because I've just secured for myself this fancy new Apple Watch. Anyone else got one? Come on. Yeah, come on. Don't be afraid. You're amongst friends. And I was jokingly saying, oh, look, I was being a bit of a toss, really. But I was sort of saying, imagine that, when you kind of get on a plane and you just get buzzed to say, good to go. Or you enter into another country and it says, welcome to the United States of America. Maria Robertson and your family. We know what you've been doing. But, you start to think, and my mother, God bless her, who usually randomly texts me some random family comment at some point in the day. She hasn't yet, but there's still plenty of day left. My mother yesterday was talking to me about Maxwell Smart and Get Smart. She forgot that I'm just about to turn 50 and said, that was before your time, right? And I was like, no, Mum, sadly, I was actually well alive. And she was saying to me about, when we were kids or growing up, and he would talk into his wrist and do all that stuff and have a camera and a pen and stuff. And we used to find it hilarious because it was so unimaginable. It was so extreme. And here we are. Here we are, as Anna said yesterday, I took a call and talked at my hand yesterday while we were kind of together. That's not extreme. So that's a kind of an interesting segue, not the fact that I bought an Apple Watch. Sadly, so did one of my sons, who's 10. He texted me from the classroom yesterday, talking into his hand. And then I texted him back and he said, Mum, don't say anything. Mr. Mac will catch me. And I was like, God. Anyway, what it kind of presents is this sort of seamless way that we can interact, this choices that we actually have available to us, and actually whether we exercise those choices or those options is kind of irrelevant. The fact is that we have them. So these RFPs is a kind of a red letter day for starting to actually present to you guys some of our kind of core or fundamental needs as we see them, in order to be able to support a complete reimagining of how people access our services. A complete reimagining of how we actually interact and relate to the people that we serve, you. So you don't have to look too far to think about what world our customers might want to operate in and how people might want to interact with us. You are those people, so are we. So I encourage you to think very broadly, to think about reimagining the relationship that you have with us. I'm not saying as a vendor, a supplier, an innovator. I'm saying as a customer. Put yourself in the shoes of your customer relationship with us, of your customer relationship with government generally, of your access to public services that may in fact not be delivered by a government agency. Put yourself in those shoes and say, how would you want that to be? What would you want that to represent? We know that there's a bunch of stuff that people want. They want to be remembered. They want to be able to pay for things. They want to be able to just have their entitlements, their opportunities proactively presented to them. I often talk about the fact that, we at 18, people are allowed to vote, but they're actually not. The law says people are allowed to vote at 18, but actually in reality they're not allowed to vote at 18. What people are allowed to do when they turn 18 is fill in a bunch of forms to register to vote. There's a distinction between the authority, the entitlement, the opportunity that as New Zealanders we have, and actually then how it comes about. There's a gap there. So as the holder of the kind of the birth record, I ask you things like, if you are entitled to vote at 18, and we have 18 years of warning here at DIA that someone's going to turn 18, what does a future look like for those key milestones, for the aspirations we have for our families, our whānau, ourselves? What does that future look like? How do we make people's lives easier? How do we improve access to public services? How do we proactively deliver services to people based on their circumstances and their lives? How do we deepen and enrich our knowledge and memory of people that we serve? These are the things that I encourage you to really broadly consider. We are using arguably quite a traditional channel, being Gets, to actually ask you to reimagine. And I think there's almost a kind of an oxymoronic nature to that. So my request, I guess my invitation to you, is to stand right outside of what might be the next obvious thing that you might present, and to completely reimagine the kind of access to public services in a way that reflects almost the way we're living our consumer lives. That actually, when you think about how we live our consumer lives, we broadly ask kind of a question. We broadly outline something, whether we're talking into our wrist or tapping here or even writing something down. We broadly ask a question, and somehow miraculously we get answers to those questions that we ask. And then we get actually opportunity that's actually really specific to us to go and get the thing that we want. But not only that, we get presented with options and opportunities and ideas. Based on what we've said and based on a memory or a knowledge of us, we also get presented with things that we hadn't maybe thought about. This is the world that I think about when I think about public services. So again, I invite you to broaden your horizons and think about yourself in the shoes of somebody accessing public services and what you might bring to the table that represents a true opportunity to innovate, to learn, to scale, and to partner with us to actually fundamentally put New Zealand on the map in terms of true customer-centred access to public services that reflect the people that we serve, their lives, their whānau and their aspirations. Again, I'd like to thank you very much for coming today, and again to just say, keep it broad, keep yourselves in the picture in terms of how you want to access public services, and very much enjoy this morning. Thank you very much.